Hi there. Before we get stuck into this week's episode of the Unstuck edit, I just wanted to hop on first and give a little caveat around what we're talking about or what I'm talking about in this episode. Specifically, I'm talking about a personal cancer journey that I had and also signs of being in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. And I just wanted to say that if any of this is triggering or has alerted you to something that may be going on in your body, I am not a doctor and you should seek medical advice. Thanks. Enjoy today's discussion. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Unstuck Edit. My name is Gail Chisholm and I am here to help you get unstuck in your life. So this month, the theme that I've been working through is the cost of staying stuck. And this week in particular, I want to explore the more physical aspect of that and, when your body might actually be saying no and are you listening? So I do actually have some very real first-hand experience of this. And I talk about it as I dodged a bullet. So back in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and I went through a year of lots of treatment, operations, and everything that comes with a cancer journey. And whilst I am in remission just now, can't tell you if I'm cured or not, but things are at bay. I am healthy, I am here, and it seems that there is no cancer in my body. Why am I telling you this? This isn't a sympathy vote. Getting a cancer diagnosis really accelerated a lot of the work that I had been doing anyway on personal development. I had this really feeling of feeling stuck. And for me, cancer was like a massive slap in the face of my body going, hey, things aren't great here. Are you actually listening? And part of why I started the Unstuck edit and why I do this work and is that I really want to help people who are feeling stuck change their life. But also I really want to help people change their life before your body tells you or gives you something to make you really stand up and take notice of what is actually going on for you. So you might be sitting here thinking, well, but my life feels fine. Everything seems all right. Something might be a little off. I'm not going to get this. I'm not going to get that. And it might not be cancer, right? I'm not here to scaremonger or anything like that. That's not what I'm here for. And by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think I caused my cancer. But what I think happened was my body sent me a strong signal to say, Gail, your life isn't as you would like it. You're actually really unhappy. And we've been giving you little signs for ages, but you've just not actually been listening. That's obviously quite a tricky message to hear. And you might be sitting here thinking, oh, are you sure, Gail? But your body stores stress, and it stores stress of when you think your life is fine. And I was reading a really interesting article about the kind of the fight, flight, freeze and fawn responses, and actually how this external vision or this external perception that your life is successful and that things are going great might actually not be what is under the surface. So I thought this video might be helpful to first of all talk through each of those responses and how that might show up to see if this actually resonates for you. And then also to talk a little bit around the things that you can do to shift out of it and maybe look at your life through a different perspective and do something, make a change. And changes don't have to be massive. The first thing I think is recognizing whether your body is in a fight, flight or freeze or fawn response. So the first one, which the fight response. So basically what this is your sympathetic nervous system is hyper aroused there could be aggression. There's this where it's like there's energy moving around and your body is perceiving that there is a threat. It's often manifesting like a explosive reactivity. Maybe you're needing like an intense need for control. Weaponized perfectionism is another signal, and or the use of dominance to manage the environment. It's basically there's a sense of feeling unsafe. So this is where, like in real life, because obviously we don't live in a cave anymore, this might be a belief that if you're big enough or you're in enough control, nothing can touch you. It can be the armor of perfectionism. There will be an exhaustion of being constantly vigilant. So if any of that has resonated, you might be like, oh, I might actually be in a fight response. So the flight response then, so this is where your nervous system is mobilizing to help you escape from a threat. And sometimes where physical escape isn't possible, the flight response can also change into a psychological flight. So that might be chronic busyness, workaholism, or a sense of like overachievement, or an inability to just sit still or be present. Like, you know, if you're that person who, when it's like, let's just sit for 2 minutes in quiet and take some deep breaths, and your body's like, whoa, no, no, no. It's just that this could be an indicator for you. So it's a real, again, it's a safety mechanism. Your body is trying to keep you safe. And the underlying belief on this is that if you just keep moving, you keep achieving, you keep producing, you keep filling your calendar, the pain won't catch you. Like, and pain, as I've just mentioned, doesn't have to be physical. It's that psychological. It's like this sense of everything's fine, my life looks okay. But there's an exhaustion under this, of this exhaustion of never being able to just stop. The freeze response then. So this is a dorsal vagal parasympathetic state of immobilization, and that involves disassociation, emotional numbing, and a shutdown of all your biological systems. And the freeze response is activated when your nervous system determines that neither fighting it or fleeing it is going to resolve it. And it's a real ancient and primitive survival circuit. So if you think of like the deer in the woods, if they can't run away from it and you can't fight it, there's this sense of freeze. And it's like this. So the underlying belief in this is that if you disappear inside yourself and you go blank, you go still and you numb, that the threat will pass. So it's this sense of that if you make yourself invisible, you will be safe. But what you're doing is you're also making yourself invisible to even yourself. And the last one is a fawn response. So this is quite a complex trauma response, and it involves appeasing the threat. So what does that look like in real life? That would be people pleasing, self-erasure, or you're preempting or anticipating other people's needs. So it's like fawning is involving abandoning your own needs, your own preferences, and your own boundaries in service of managing the emotional state of someone else. And you do that to avoid conflict, rejection, or abandonment. So the belief that's under this is that if you become exactly what everyone else needs, so agreeable, accommodating, always available, the ultimate people pleaser, you will be safe. And again, there's this exhaustion that sits underneath this because you're not being yourself, you're not letting yourself shine. So what happens then? So over time, your body, so if you think of these responses, right, that like a lot of them came from so there's the dawn of mankind, right, where we didn't live in the world that we live in today, and these things were all designed to keep us safe. And the body was designed that these safety mechanisms would kick in, keep you safe for a short period of time, and then your body would regulate back. So because the threat would disappear, and so your body could go back into its natural state. The world that we live in today, we don't have, they're not often these external threats. And so our body isn't actually returning to our normal calibration. And then over time, the more we sit in these states and our nervous system just gets shot, is that we end up just living in one of these states, and with this dysregulation occurs. And then over time, we become really exhausted. We can feel these sense of burnout. We lose sense of ourself, this whole idea of being stuck. And then eventually, like, you're going to start to manifest that stress into physical things. You might start having illnesses. There might be sense of fatigue. There might be a whole host of things where stress can be a real trigger factor in causing something. And obviously, as I said at the beginning, I suppose I am not a doctor, so please go and, if any of this is resonating and you're feeling that really a sense of feeling unsafe, please go and see your GP. And hopefully, even if this might even have opened your eyes to maybe what's going on and what you're feeling like on the inside, and that you've just really lost sight of yourself. It's great that our biology wants to keep us safe, and it's the same as like an inner critic. If you feel that you've got noisy mind monkeys, that's just a safety mechanism and wanting to keep you safe for a particular time. But what is the long-term cost of that? And certainly if I've taken a long, hard look at my life, to get to where I have today, and having been through a real medical issue, I've decided that how I live my life is different. I think that when I got cancer, I really looked at it as I dodged a bullet. The type of cancer I had was quite aggressive. I was lucky that it had been probably caught earlyish. But I don't know how long I've got left, right? So my sort of perspective now is that I'm not going to live in these states for any longer than actually I need to. And so I look at tools to keep my body safe, to keep my psychology safe, to try and live more authentically, and to just be who I want to be. Now, I am not sitting here saying that is easy. And I can tell you for sure there's some days I achieve that better than I do others. But the cost of me staying stuck had a physical manifestation. And so what are the tools that I use now? So for the last year and a half, I've actually been doing Kundalini yoga twice a week, and I am now an embodiment teacher, which means I teach people how to move and shift energy and come back to self. It's a real somatic connection to your body that helps shift some of these stagnant energies. It helps to actually really calm down your nervous system through movement, breath work, mantra. I mean, one of the simplest things that you can do to help recalibrate your body is just some really deep breathing. It's actually weirdly something that I do with some of my netball teams when there's a lot of stress going on, and people's decision making might be a little bit off, is when we have a break and we do collective like deep breathing, where we really inhale deeply, hold at the top, and then sigh it out. So it helps our body just come back to calm down, which allows clarity and better decision making. So you can start to practice these things, simple things. It doesn't mean that you need to be meditating for 20 hours a day. And, if you've recognized yourself in any of these responses, you'll know that you might have been living in that for a long time. And externally, your life might look really, really successful. But on the inside, you're like, that you is screaming to be let out. Like, all the control that you might have, the discipline to be like, every minute of your day is planned out. There's so many people and things making demands on your time that actually just even finding that 5 minutes to do a few deep breathing is can be tricky. but you've got to start somewhere. You can also start doing some affirmations, and that might be how you talk to yourself. Journaling's been a really good tool for me that helps kind of process my thinking. I've got a habit of doing it as a bedtime routine, but some people do it in the morning. And to be honest, you don't even have to do it every single day. This is the thing for me. I would always advocate like baby steps. So if that's like you've gone from never journaling in your life to journaling once a week, that is a great baby step forward. And then the more you find that these tools work, the more that you will progress forward. In addition to those sorts of things is actually you want to have an exploration around who are you really, because sometimes if you've been living a life that you maybe thought was really good and made you happy, but you've suddenly woken up 10 years later and realised that you've just lost sight of who you are and you've made all these decisions in your life for other people, well, you've got to take a little bit of time to figure out who are you. And that might be on the inside. That could also be on the outside. Like you might have thought it might be your image and your external representation has become diminished over time. Because you might be thinking, oh, I feel like, I work in a particular job, I need to fit in. And you've lost sight of who you are and what brings you joy. So you could also spend some time doing that, exploring your sense of style and exploring your creativity. It might even be decorate one of the rooms in your house in the colour that brings you joy and lifts your energy. Other things that are really good tools to spend some time in nature. Nature is such a grounding energy, and there's a whole range of things you can do on a woo-woo scale, but at its core, just go for a walk somewhere in nature. Especially if it's a little bit quiet. And I would encourage you to do this without any podcast, audiobook, music playlist, anything like that. Just go and be present in nature, and you might discover things that come up. You're creating yourself some space and freedom, and just the sense of being in nature is going to feel really nice for you and really help your nervous system regulate. If you want to take it a step further, you could take your shoes off and really ground into the earth. And you can even start to visualize things where you are sending the things that are worrying you or the things that are stressing you out. You can visualize that they're going out of your feet down into the ground. And you can then also visualize Mother Nature giving you this beautiful healing energy back. I love to hug a tree. That's not for everyone, I get that. But that's another thing you can do is hug a tree, give it all your worries, and then it can give you back some healing. Go for a facial, go for a massage, go and have some Reiki. Create some time for yourself, because this is about reconnection with who you are. Because if you take yourself out of these states as well, as you're left with, well, who am I? What is the boundary I want to set here? How do I stop? How do I even say no to somebody when I've always said yes? So take a little time for some of these things, but what you're doing is you're sending yourself a message that you matter, that you are important in your life, and that you're going to put yourself first. And that's not about being a selfish asshole. That's about putting yourself first, like filling your cup before you help others. What's the adage of the oxygen mask on you first before you help other people? Like if you are depleted, you can't show up for the people that you love and care for. And you just never know what's going to happen when you start to regulate your nervous system, and start to just feel again and feel into who you are, and for you to get unstuck before your body starts seriously telling you something's going on here. So I hope that's been helpful. As I mentioned, if there is anything that is medically alarming for you in this episode, please go and speak to a medical practitioner. If this has also triggered you with any psychological response, please go and speak to a medical practitioner. Otherwise, I hope that this is a catalyst for you to listen and tune into what your body's telling you and to begin living life on your terms, and that it will help you get unstuck and move into where you want to go. Thank you for tuning in today, and we will be continuing our theme for April, which is the cost of staying stuck. You can also go back and look at last week's episode, which was much more career orientated and feeling like a square peg in a round hole. I would love for you to join the conversation if any of this has resonated, if you found it helpful. If you would like more information on some of the tips, please just reach out. If you want to try embodiment work, you can join my embodiment classes. There's a link in the bio, and actually if you sign up to my newsletter, you can get my emergency Unstuck kit, which is a little kit of 5 minutes of your time that can really help you get unstuck, recalibrate your nervous system. It's got a brilliant little video on a breath work that you can do, not just the long deep breathing, but to just really ground yourself down into yourself, bring yourself back, recalibrate your nervous system, and connect to more of like your feminine side and your intuition. So until the next time, thank you so much for watching.